maybe the Nigerians will tell us if the Ghanaian jollof is better than the Nigerian jollof or otherwise. Yeah, now we are going to our next session that will be talking about internal quality assurance training needs for the future. Here we have 3 panelists. On my far right, we have Madame Fatoumata Keita. She's from Mali, from the Université des Lettres et des Sciences Humaines de Bamako. Again, on my right, I have Mr. Devarajan Venathan, Head of Quality Assurance from the University of Technology, Mauritius. On my left, we have Professor Beatrice Odera-Kwach from the Commission for University Education in Kenya. So each panelist will give us, we just talk briefly about the objective of their dissemination projects and also the lesson learned from the project regarding the future needs in internal quality assurance training. So I would like to start with Fatoumata and request her to make a presentation related to objectives of their project and also the lesson learned from that project. Thank you. The floor is yours, Fatoumata.
Merci beaucoup. Tout d'abord, je voudrais commencer par remercier l'ensemble des partenaires qui sont derrière ce projet et grâce à qui nous sommes ici. Donc, notre projet au niveau du Mali a porté sur les HAQAA comme un outil d'aide à la mise en œuvre d'une politique d'assurance qualité interne dans les institutions d'enseignement supérieur au Mali. Donc, le projet a été porté par 2 institutions, l'Université des Lettres et des Sciences Humaines de Bamako et l'Institut national d'ingénierie des ingénieurs de l'ENI ABT, dont le représentant est le docteur Solomani Koulibaly, malheureusement, qui n'est pas venu aujourd'hui. Donc, l'objectif principal de notre projet, c'était surtout le renforcement des capacités. Le renforcement des capacités que nous avons considéré comme un maillon essentiel pour vraiment cultiver une culture de la qualité dans nos institutions. L'autre objectif, c'était de vulgariser aussi les HAQAA, qui n'est pas très bien compris par nos collègues au niveau de l'université, et d'encourager l'utilisation aussi des HAQAA. L'autre objectif, c'était de l'utiliser dans les auto-évaluations institutionnelles, donc encourager vraiment l'utilisation des HAQAA dans les auto-évaluations au niveau des institutions d'enseignement supérieur. Et l'objectif principal était surtout d'appuyer l'opérationnalisation des SIEC, qui reste encore vraiment non fonctionnel dans beaucoup de nos établissements. Donc, l'objectif final étant justement d'instaurer cette culture de la qualité qui est encore absente. Donc, par rapport aux leçons que nous avons apprises, c'est surtout cela qu'il y a un déficit de formation, il y a un déficit d'information. Avec la MACSUP ces dernières années, il y a eu une série de formations au niveau des différentes institutions du Mali, mais ces formations se sont focalisées surtout sur les responsables SIAC, sur les responsables des administrations. Donc, pour nous, il est important d'étendre aujourd'hui cette formation à l'ensemble des enseignants-chercheurs pour que nous ayons un vivier d'enseignants-chercheurs qui puissent s'approprier vraiment de cette démarche qualité. Donc, comme besoin de formation, nous avons dit qu'il sera vraiment important d'étendre la formation aux enseignants-chercheurs, pas seulement afin qu'ils participent à des auto-évaluations, afin qu'ils sachent comment évaluer les apprentissages, mais aussi pour qu'ils puissent enseigner avec la qualité. Au niveau de l'administration, pour qu'ils puissent gouverner avec l'assurance qualité, qui est aujourd'hui essentielle si nous voulons avoir vraiment cette démarche qualité globale. L'autre besoin aussi, c'est au niveau des enseignants-chercheurs qui doivent développer des compétences générales concernant la compréhension même de l'assurance qualité et des compétences spécifiques aujourd'hui comment élaborer des programmes, des syllabus en ayant en tête justement cette question de l'assurance qualité, comment structurer des cours par rapport à cette démarche qualité, comment aussi élaborer des parcours de formation et de certification. Donc tout ça, ce sont aujourd'hui des besoins cruciaux que nous devrons développer si réellement nous voulons développer cette culture de la qualité. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup à Madame Fatoumata Keita. Nous allons procéder à la présentation de Monsieur Devarajan Venethathan. Lodi Maurice, à vous la parole, monsieur.
Thank you, dear. Well, I'm from Mauritius. Our dissemination project is took the form of a 5-day workshop for a training on HAQAA. So in Mauritius, first of all, it's good to know that we've got 4 public HEIs and several private HEIs, and we are not yet on the same wavelength in terms of QA. So it's good, therefore, that we share the practices, and thanks for Dad and the other partners for giving us this opportunity to mount this training. Then the capacity building was on IQA because that was the project framework. And this was conducted by, as I said earlier, by Professor Moni, and we focused on standard 7 to 12. While it was, we managed to regroup all the TI, all the higher education institutions, including the QA leaders, the administrators, and we also managed to put the student representatives because they are important stakeholders in this business of QA. Following the 5-day training, because it was important for us to maintain the momentum and to keep sharing our worries and our practices. So we put in place a WhatsApp group of all the QA practitioners. And following that, just recently, we have put in place a society, the Higher Education Quality Assurance Society, which is a legal entity regrouping the QA practitioners to be able to fulfill the objectives of sharing the practices. So the objective of the project is quite obvious, is to empower the HEIs to continuously improve the IQA system, to guide them in the application of the standards, because our regulatory body also has come up with a standard which is based more or less on the HAQAA. So we have the opinion that we have to empower the stakeholders in assessing their quality through regular internal quality audits. That was a short-term and long-term objectives. I think we'll better proceed if you have any questions on the project.
Okay. Kindly write down the questions. We are going to take all of the questions at the end of the presentation of Professor Beatrice. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Bon après-midi to everyone. I'm from Kenya. I work at the Quality Assurance Agency, Commission for University Education. Our project arose as a response to COVID. Most universities in Kenya did not suspend the teaching. However, the teaching was based on an emergency. So when COVID was regularized, we embarked on a process of regularizing now the ODEL forms of teaching. So our project was basically to build capacity amongst the universities on preparation of self-assessment reports, and also on amongst ourselves as regulatory agency, we do not know really what is ODEL. So the provision made by OBRIL and HAQAA2 initiative really helped us in understanding what is ODEL. ODEL is so much open distance and e-learning. So the forms of ODEL during COVID was open, distance, and E was even on the form. So we embarked on training our universities on how do you prepare for accreditation of an institution. So our objective was to review the self-assessment report, questionnaire. In the commission, we have a questionnaire. The questionnaire is online on our website currently. You can download it. So we were to review this self-assessment questionnaire we sent to the universities, and we only reviewed the institutional bit, but there's also ODEL of academic programs. So we also needed to develop an evaluation tool. As a quality assurance agency, when we come to the universities, how do we evaluate this self-assessment? So we embarked on also training directors of ODEL centers of higher education institutions. We had the project in two phases. We first engaged experts in ODEL to review the tool and the self-assessment questionnaire. And we discovered that there were many challenges. However, this exercise is one of the activities we embarked on as a commission. So it's an ongoing activity, and it's one of our activities for this year. So we learned that it is important that whatever project you have, you should mainstream it in your work plan so that you don't have challenges of budgeting and time, because time is very essential. And there was a call during the workshops that there is need to create a forum because ODEL is an emerging issue and a trend. There was lack of clarity also within the higher education institutions in respect to what is institutional and program ODEL, because you have to also look at the institution as a whole. This center we are talking about, who is there, and also the curriculum. The curriculum was face-to-face. In the commission, we even had standards on ODEL. We never mainstreamed the ODEL standards in the universities in Kenya until COVID arose. After COVID now, there is need to really mainstream ODEL accreditation in our institutions. So there is need for further training. We only trained 32. These 32 were already the universities which had responded to a questionnaire. And they are the same institutions we developed the tool. So there was need to really look at to train other ODEL directors, because now we only have 32. We are now, this is mainstreamed in our activities. We have already accredited 5 institutions, and 6 we have done the other week. So it is mainstreamed. Of course, there are challenges. There is need for more training, even for the institutions. So we learned that there is need to train these directors. There is need to train further instructional and curriculum developers, because the curriculum is only for face-to-face. When you come to now ODEL, what is a curriculum in ODEL mode? There's a big question on that, and we find that we need to train the faculty on the use of ODEL LMS. There is LMS, there is infrastructure in the institutions, but what it is, because the universities also responded to ODEL need. But really, during COVID, they were not trained in how do you develop content for your curriculum as a professor in the faculty. So we need to really train universities on the key technologies for ODEL. With, we have been going around, we found that universities have the technology, but are they able to use the technology? So those are the questions we are dealing with as a commission, and we have been going to universities, but also for us as a commission, there's also need for us to understand all this new area, which is emerging, so that we can have quality university education. And I believe that there is so much you can do in Africa with Odell. And I believe it's an area for further support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Beatrice, for your presentation. My colleague would like to add some needs in internal quality assurance in Mauritius. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah. So obviously, following the workshop, we found that there is a gap, a skill gap in some of the QA aspect, like for instance, writing of SCR. It's important that people know what to write on which they will be audited. This is not clear for each and everyone. So one of the training need that we still have mainly for private and some public institutions is writing of SCR, internal auditing, and the people have to be well informed of what quality audit is all about, how to build their internal quality assurance. So we still have training needs, obviously training going on, but this is where we have a dire training needs for our institution, public and private.
Thank you for your addition. Now it's time for the question. We are going to start with the example of Mali. You've heard the challenges they have, and also the stated future needs at the institutions in Mali, and how this can be addressed. Do you share the same concern? Do you share the same challenges in your respective institutions? Or do you have some other challenges, or how can those challenges be addressed when it comes to internal quality assurance? The floor is yours. The floor is open. Okay, yeah, okay, I can see that there is a hand. Okay, yeah, I'm saying you followed the project in Mali, the challenges they have when it comes to internal quality assurance. Do you also the training needs when it comes to internal quality assurance? I'm asking, also your institutions or your countries having the same challenges, or you have different challenges, and what are the trainings, what are the trainings that are needed to make sure the internal quality assurance is operational in our respective institutions? Yes, there was a hand. Yes.
Si, je suis professeur Henri de l'Université Alassane Ouattara en Côte d'Ivoire. Plus qu'un partage d'expérience, je voudrais plutôt comprendre l'exposé de la collègue Fatmata. J'ai vu que le projet qu'elle présente prend en compte à la fois 3 axes de l'assurance qualité dans les institutions. Je pense notamment à la mise en place des mécanismes qualité, à l'amélioration de la qualité et au renforcement de la qualité. Pour le peu que je sais, tout commence d'abord par la mise en place des mécanismes, et ensuite, une fois les mécanismes en place, on peut améliorer, on peut renforcer. Ben, j'ai cru comprendre que dans le projet, les 3 dimensions sont à la fois présentes. Donc, je voudrais savoir si déjà il y avait des mécanismes qui existaient avant qu'on ne les améliore, parce qu'elle a parlé d'évaluation de programmes, de formation, d'évaluation des enseignements. Est-ce que vous aviez déjà des mécanismes en place avant que vous n'abordiez les 3 axes? Est-ce que ça ne pose pas de problème d'embrasser à la fois les 3? Parce que pour des pays où tout est en place, on peut parler de renforcement en renforçant les capacités des individus. Mais quand votre programme prend en compte les 3, je voudrais bien comprendre. Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. En fait, l'assurance qualité au Mali, les universités ne sont pas au même niveau. Il y a des universités qui ont déjà des cellules qui fonctionnent. Il y a des universités qui ont des cellules qui ne sont pas d'abord fonctionnelles et il y a des universités qui n'ont pas encore de cellules d'assurance qualité. Donc, nous sommes à 3 niveaux différents. Il y a déjà un mécanisme qui existe. Nous avons l'Agence malienne de l'assurance qualité qui, depuis 2017-2018, forme les universités sur les questions d'assurance qualité. Et c'est d'ailleurs après ça que nous avons eu les SIAC au niveau des différentes universités. Donc, pour nous, il ne s'agissait pas d'aller sur un seul coup, il fallait aller ensemble avec toutes les roues de la machine, c'est-à-dire développer, créer des cellules là où il n'y en a pas, à travers la sensibilisation, les ateliers de formation que nous avons faits. Et lors de ces ateliers de formation, nous avons fait venir des universités où les SIAC ont du mal à démarrer. Nous avons fait venir aussi des universités où les SIAC commencent à marcher. Donc, il ne s'agit pas seulement de nos institutions. Nous avons fait en sorte que les collègues de ces universités participent aux différentes formations qui ont été animées par l'Agence malienne de l'assurance qualité. Donc, voilà pourquoi nous avons insisté sur la création des SIAC, l'opérationnalisation des SIAC et le développement de la culture qualité. Là où déjà ça existe, il faut renforcer davantage les capacités. Et là où il y a un besoin, il faut commencer par la formation. Et nous avons aussi insisté qu'il faut étendre aussi cette formation, non seulement à l'administration universitaire, mais aussi aux étudiants, qui ont aussi un rôle à jouer dans ces dispositifs de l'assurance qualité. Et la MACSUP a aussi commencé cela. Mais nous avons des universités un peu pléthoriques, donc il faut qu'il y ait des formations périodiques. Donc c'est pourquoi nous avons parlé de l'institutionnalisation de ces formations-là, surtout au niveau des doyens, des chefs DDR qui changent. Donc, il faut instaurer cela. C'est ce que nous appelons aussi la culture de la qualité, à travers une institutionnalisation des formations. Je ne sais pas si cela répond à votre question.
Si, merci. J'ai cru que le projet était pour un établissement. J'ai bien perçu, merci.
Non, c'est 2 établissements, l'Institut national d'ingénieurs de Bamako et l'Université des lettres de Bamako. Mais nous n'avons pas voulu que nous, 2 institutions seulement, bénéficient de ces projets. Nous avons invité au moins 8 autres institutions à se joindre à nous pendant les formations. Parce que, comme je l'ai dit, nous sommes à des niveaux de développement un peu différents. Voilà. Et nous avons aussi procédé à une auto-évaluation de l'Institut national d'ingénierie par les références des AEG. C'est bon? Okay.
Merci, Madame Fatoumata. Monsieur Alès, vous pouvez y aller.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Thank you. My question is going to be addressed to my colleague from Mali, but it's the same question addressed to you, the other colleagues from Mauritius and Madame, vous avez bien expliqué les 3 de façon sorte de SIAC, ce qu'on appelle cellules internes d'assurance qualité. Certaines sont déjà effectives et travaillent, d'autres, elles sont effectives, elles ne travaillent pas, et d'autres, elles n'existent pas encore. Bon, de notre courte expérience en Mauritanie, les SIAC font face à 2 grands problèmes. Le premier, c'est lui tout d'abord d'avoir des avantages matériels. Ce n'est pas le cas en Mauritanie. Le président du SIAC et les membres, ils ont des indemnités pour leur travail dans les SIAC. Mais dans d'autres pays, ce n'est pas le cas. Et quand on rajoute un travail à un chef de département qui est la SIAC et on lui dit de faire la SIAC, il ne sera pas du tout fonctionnel. Et c'est, je pense, l'un des problèmes où l'assurance interne fait face à des défis. La deuxième chose importante aussi, c'est les outils. Ces cellules existent, mais qu'est-ce qu'elles doivent faire? Quels sont les outils qu'ils doivent faire pour... Je pense qu'il doit y avoir des outils spécialement pour l'assurance. Qu'est-ce qu'ils doivent faire? Quand ils entrent dans un service de scolarité, quand ils entrent dans un service des affaires académiques, donc c'est un problème, c'est un défi. Donc, je voudrais savoir, au Mali, qu'est-ce que vous faites par rapport à ces deux défis? Et bien sûr, dans les deux autres pays. Merci.
Let's take 2 more questions. Yes, sir.
OK, ça va.
OK, merci, merci Madame la Présidente. Moi, je ne veux pas poser la question, je vais plutôt répondre à votre question parce qu'effectivement, vous avez demandé si réellement les besoins qu'on vient d'exprimer là-bas devant nous sont les mêmes que dans d'autres institutions. À ce qui me concerne, je vais répondre en s'appuyant sur la réponse que vient de donner Madame Mamadou Keïta. Et effectivement, elle a dit que c'est le manque de l'information. Je me dis qu'elle a aussi dit que les universités au Mali ne sont pas au même niveau. Moi, je me dis que plutôt en Afrique, j'ai l'impression que aussi les universités, plutôt même les pays ne sont pas au même niveau. Raison pour laquelle finalement, les besoins restent donc les renforcements des capacités ou même la formation à ces références et lignes directrices reste totalement nécessaire. Je vais donner un exemple. Pendant la formation, parce que pour notre projet, c'était en rapport avec la formation en référence et lignes directrices de l'enseignement supérieur africain. On peut remarquer que lorsque vous êtes en train de former, on peut remarquer que même au sein de la même université, les niveaux ne sont pas les mêmes. Je vais donner un exemple. Par exemple, si vous êtes en train de disséminer ou d'expliquer ces standards, on remarque que finalement, les administratifs, ils pensent que l'assurance qualité de l'enseignement supérieur ne les concerne pas. Hein? Si vous allez, par exemple, aux enseignants que vous pensez qu'ils sont très, très formés, très, très avancés en assurance qualité, et ils remarquent que finalement, ce que nous faisons ne correspond pas aux lignes directrices. Donc, si vous allez, par exemple, à la gouvernance, à la direction de l'Université du Burundi, j'ai l'impression qu'il y a aussi les questions qui concernent la gouvernance de l'Université du Burundi ne sont pas totalement appropriées si on regarde effectivement en ensemble les parties prenantes de l'enseignement supérieur. Alors, pour laquelle finalement, j'ai l'impression que je soutiens totalement la réponse que Mamadou Keïta a donnée, qu'il y a toujours manque de l'information en rapport avec le mécanisme de l'assurance qualité. Je vous remercie.
Ouais. Merci. Madame Fatma, vous pouvez répondre à la question. Tu peux répondre à la question, puis on va prendre autre.
Merci beaucoup pour la question venant de la Mauritanie. Effectivement, ce que vous avez décrit, ce sont nos problèmes. Il y a un problème de moyens. Il faut des moyens pour faire démarrer les cellules. Et malheureusement, jusqu'à présent, c'est le point d'achoppement vraiment du démarrage des activités de l'assurance qualité interne au niveau de beaucoup d'universités. C'est le premier obstacle. Parce que déjà, dans des universités où les enseignants ont plusieurs heures à effectuer, ils ont des encadrements à effectuer, ils ont des tâches administratives. À chaque fois qu'on leur demande de faire un travail supplémentaire, effectivement, ils vont demander quand même une indemnité pour ça. Et c'est justement ça qui bloque. Nous, à notre niveau, ce projet a été déjà ce que nous sommes en train d'utiliser pour faire un plaidoyer. C'est plaidoyer que la MACSUP fait depuis des années au niveau des différentes universités pour leur dire que vraiment l'assurance qualité, c'est important et qu'il faut que les universités adoptent une démarche qualité. C'est un plaidoyer que fait la MACSUP depuis des années. Nous, avec ce projet, nous voulons également nous joindre à la MACSUP en prenant notre bâton de pèlerin pour aller au niveau des institutions pour leur dire nous ne pouvons pas ne pas aller vers la qualité, même si nous savons que nous n'avons pas les moyens de nos objectifs, mais au moins commencer. Par exemple, dans mon université, une cellule d'assurance qualité a été créée sur papier depuis 2017. Donc, mais jusqu'à présent, à cause des problèmes que vous avez signalés, elle peine à démarrer. Donc, nous sommes en train de leur dire, au moins, mettez en place les équipes, même s'il n'y a pas d'abord les moyens, qu'on commence à élaborer une politique qualité, qu'on commence vraiment les activités. Mais jusqu'à présent, ça bloque parce que nous n'avons pas encore un vivier d'enseignants-chercheurs pour nous accompagner. D'où l'importance des formations, d'où l'importance de l'information aussi. Parce que beaucoup de gens ne savent même pas ce que c'est que l'assurance qualité au niveau des institutions. Et les enquêtes que nous avons menées nous ont montré ça. Qu'est-ce que c'est que l'assurance qualité? C'était la première question qu'on nous posait. Je ne sais pas ce que c'est. Donc, il faut d'abord une compréhension commune, une élucidation conceptuelle même concernant l'assurance qualité. Et comment utiliser cet outil? Quels sont les mécanismes que cela implique? Quels sont les enjeux? Mais aussi, quelles sont les exigences? Parce que l'assurance qualité va avec des exigences. Et ces exigences-là, souvent, ce sont les facteurs de blocage pour la plupart de nos institutions, parce que ça demande beaucoup de choses. Ça demande un changement de comportement. Il faut enseigner autrement. Il faut évaluer autrement. Il faut gouverner autrement. Donc, voilà ce que les institutions ne veulent pas faire. Donc, à travers ces petits projets, nous voulons aussi tirer la sonnette d'alarme qu'il est important aujourd'hui que nous ayons vers la démarche qualité, que nous ne pouvons pas ne pas y aller aujourd'hui, surtout dans ce monde actuel où nous sommes, dans ce monde où il est attendu que les universités jouent leur rôle pour l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable. Donc, nous ne pouvons pas rester en marche. Donc, voilà un peu ce que nous sommes en train de faire à travers ces petits projets. Donc, voilà.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Fatoumata. Mr. Devarajan, you had the question. Is it the same scenario in Mauritius, or you've got something different to share? Thank you.
It's not necessarily the same, but I think what the message that has to be sent clear is that quality assurance is not an additional work, because it's part of the work. All academic, they're supposed to do their work quality assured. This is the problem is in the quality culture. All institutions have to ensure that there is a quality culture in the organization. In fact, this is the first question that you get when you undergo a quality audit. Do you have a quality culture? So you should have a quality policy and ensure that the quality culture is, you start from the basic to the professors. So once you've got your quality culture, then quality assurance becomes simple. It's not an additional work, but just that you need someone to monitor quality. So you will need a director of quality, a quality assurance officer, quality assurance coordinator. And the office normally is a small office. It can be 1 or 2 persons. But then the quality job has to be done at the faculty level. So my office is only 2 persons. I got myself as the head of quality, and then I've got a very effective administrative officer. The way it works is that each faculty, I've got a quality coordinator who is an academic. Then we're grouped together into what we call the University Quality Assurance Committee. And this is where we get the message for quality disseminated to the faculty. But what is important is that everyone has to ensure that quality is their job. So it's not the job of the head of quality. I understand that there are some disparities even in our small country. Some institutions have got the head of quality who is a permanent job like mine, but some have got as an additional role to an existing officer. Obviously, it's not the same impact. So the problem is what importance the institution give to quality. This is, I think, the major question that has to be answered by the board of the institution and the CEO of the institution. How important is quality within the institutions?
Thank you for sharing your interesting experience from Mauritius, where now you are adopting the quality culture, and the issue of allowances is not, is not the main issue when it comes to quality assurance activities. Let's hear also the case of Kenya. How in Kenya do quality assurance practitioners or quality assurance directors perform their duties? Do they also request for allowances, or that is part of the additional work that doesn't need to be rewarded? Let me say so.
Thank you, Juru. In Kenya, as the CEO for IUSA told us in the morning, we had the benefit of being granted a fund from DAD. From that story, we had many institutions trained on internal quality assurance, and the chair was there at that time. So many of our institutions, which we have over 77 institutions in Kenya, majority were trained on internal quality assurance. And we mainstreamed this in our standards at the commission. So for any institution to be accredited or to be re-accredited, or a program to be accredited, there must be a quality assurance director. And the directorate is an office, is fully established in most of the institutions in our country. So I believe it's just that quality culture, but I think we have gone through that, and now is to continue training. So there is need of continued training to mainstream quality, internal quality assurance in our institutions. But we have my colleagues from Kenya, they can attest to that there is an office and a directorate which is fully funded by the universities. Thank you.
Chris, for sharing the experience of Kenya. I think Dr. Violet had a question.
For the opportunity. For me, sometimes it's mostly contributions. So what I wanted to say is partly answered by Mauritius. I just want to ask, where do we start from when we want to establish quality assurance in our institutions or anywhere? Where we start from does matter, because if today you just say, we will not accredit your program because you don't have a quality assurance directorate, or we just wake up to say every institution should have a quality assurance directorate, I've realized from the short surveys that I've done that it brings a lot of resistance. The resistance sometimes is not deliberate. It's people have a lot of questions which are not responded to. For example, what is quality in higher education? Just like our colleague from Mali said, they even want to understand when we say quality in higher education, what do we mean? And from there, why quality assurance? How do we do it? With what benefits? That's where you find people saying, you should pay us for extra work, because they don't know that the quality should be embedded in whatever they are doing. But more than that is the buy-in. I think the issue of national level involvement and political will comes in. But the core ownership, again, comes with education and awareness. in order to get the necessary buy-in, because people will now know what they are getting into. But another thing also generally is people, even those who say they now understand a lot about quality assurance, you find they've got a narrow understanding of what quality and quality assurance is in higher and tertiary education. Very quickly, you find in most countries, people say academic planning and quality assurance. It's very dangerous, that label, because quality assurance is the motherboard. Academic planning is only part, accreditation is only part, qualifications, verification is only part. That's why we also need to check in HAQAA2, like I said yesterday, can we involve more people who are dealing with the different arms of quality assurance? Then my last one is we have people who are appointed. I think in most countries, this problem is there. People are appointed just because they've been in the institution long, or they are a dean. So now they become a dean and the director quality assurance. There's conflict of interest, and sometimes they don't know anything about the overall quality assurance. So what do we do about such things in HAQAA2? Is there room to push them in and have some ways to include them in what we are going to talk about, as well as the other factors which have already been presented? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Violet, for your contribution. Now, let us take one more question from Professor Lenga before we proceed with some other questions. The floor is yours, Prof.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Mine is not a question, but maybe contribution to the discussions that are going on. I would want to agree that one, in internal quality assurance, there's need for continuous capacity building. And in this capacity building, it is very necessary, both at the institutions, higher education institutions, and even at the commissions. Why am I saying this? One is that we have a turnover of academic staff in institutions. There's also the aspect of aging that we did talk about in the morning, because we have people going out and others coming in. Even if we were to start the training now, sooner or later, as we have realized in East Africa, and I think the IUCA executive secretary did hint to that. We started the project late 2006, and by 2016, most of those who were trained early in the various countries in East Africa had also been given positions. And as we are talking now, most of them are holding very powerful positions. So there's need for retraining and retraining and retraining. Much as in Kenya, it has been institutionalized in the Act of 2012 for the Commission for University Education. No universities in Kenya can actually be registered or actually fully accredited or even partially accredited without institutionalizing an HAQAA policy with its structures. And of course, that calls for also training of the HAQAA directors. And these are normally actually trained within the institutions, but also with the help of the commission. And that's why I'm saying capacity building is a must. Whether we are in HAQAA2, HAQAA3, HAQAA4, it's a continuous process. Training is a continuous process. And as technology changes, and as aspects change and we learn, like from the COVID-19, now that people are doing blended teaching, that's the more reason we should be able to devise ways of improving even in the training for capacity building. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Professor Lenga, for again talking about the capacity building, as my panelists have already mentioned it. But now I have a specific question. We are talking about capacity building, but who should be trained and who should be trained and what should be trained on?
What about the mic?
Participants online.
What about the mic? I think I want to answer your question directly. What I'm listening to is that the people, the QA managers in institutions are struggling to get the QA practices going and the QA culture embedded. And I think partly it's because we are privileging the academic project and the research project over quality as a fundamental issue that touches every aspect of an institution. So the notion of an integrated quality management system is what is needed. So every support person, every administrator, etc., needs to be able to reflect on their practice, needs to be able to do their own internal quality assurance, their own self-assessment, etc. Because everything in an institution is interconnected. And when you ask about who should be trained, I think one of the first groups has to be the vice chancellors and deputy vice chancellors, etc. Because at a national level and at an institutional level, there are three steering mechanisms. There's funding, planning, and quality. And these three have to be seen together. There's got to be synergy, there's got to be alignment. And when you are talking about your institutional policy, it goes down to every single individual. For example, in your promotion practices, everybody has to reflect and on what have they done, what's the quality in terms of what they've done, and how have they measured it, and what are they going to do to improve, so that every individual owns the quality assurance agenda. And if that happens in an institution, naturally you are going to start to build the quality. But I really think that there is a gap where your top leadership doesn't really understand at a policy level how to ensure that you have an integrated quality management system.
Je voudrais faire une contribution concernant l'assurance qualité. Je suis de Côte d'Ivoire. Hein. Je suis de l'Institut national polytechnique. En fait, je voulais dire que on est toujours parti, pour ce que je sais, pour l'historique de l'assurance qualité de l'enseignement supérieur. J'ai l'impression qu'on part toujours du bas pour aller vers le top management. Cela veut dire quoi? C'est-à-dire que si en ce moment, je prends un échantillonnage dans la salle et que je leur demande s'ils regardent dans les exigences que la direction a en termes d'exigences en matière d'assurance qualité au niveau même des différents services, est-ce qu'il y a une seule phrase dans toutes les attributions au niveau des différents services, la place de l'assurance qualité pour qu'on puisse les évaluer sur au moins ce qui est écrit? Je ne pense pas. Je ne pense pas. Donc, si rien n'est écrit, on ne peut pas leur demander. Parce que vous savez, pour pouvoir financer quelque chose, il faudrait bien que ce soit écrit quelque part que je vais atteindre cet objectif, donc je mets les ressources pour atteindre ces objectifs. Aucun top management va dire dans ses attributions que voici la part de l'assurance qualité sur laquelle on va te juger. Et comment déployer cela au service N-1, N-2 pour que chacun, dans sa fiche de poste, sache qu'il y a au moins une phrase dedans qui dit « En matière de qualité, voici ce que tu dois faire ». Tout ça n'a pas encore été écrit. On va former des gens. Si celui qui est en haut, qui donne de l'argent et qui finance,
ne met pas ça comme une priorité, on fera les, comme disait une collègue, on fera les HAQAA2, HAQAA3, HAQAA4, ça ne va pas changer beaucoup. Hein. Donc, je pense que dès maintenant, il faudrait que le top management, quand il fait une fiche de poste, met au moins une phrase dedans pour dire ici, pour les enseignants, voici ce que nous voulons en tant que qualité, pour les administratifs techniques, ainsi de suite, pour que chacun puisse être jugé sur son apport en matière de management de la qualité au niveau de l'atteinte de l'objectif qualité de l'Institut. Si on ne fait pas ça, on ne va jamais avancer.
I just want to add to what our dynamic lady started with. Where do we start? This is what you said. I think, where do we start? We start with the guideline that the regulator has come up with. You want to institute quality in your institution. You don't know where we start. So there should be a guide, because that's why if you don't have any guideline, then obviously you end up in a jungle. The guideline should be put in place by the regulator. Obviously, if you don't have a regulator of quality, it's a problem. So the first question that the guideline will tell you, do you have a quality policy? And the quality policy, it is the document which will help you to establish a quality culture within your organization. I think this is the starting point. And this is where your quality culture will start. And this is where everything will start being settled. And you also said about who is going to monitor that process in your institution? Do we appoint the right person? It's obvious if you don't appoint the right person, if the person is appointed only based on his the time he's been in the institution and not on his exposure, then again you have a problem. So all these has to be taken into consideration.
Dr. Baguma, you had a question? No, Dr. Baguma. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. So I just wanted to compliment. So who should be trained? Indeed, the approach is to achieve the integratedness, but also trained on what? So here I may share my experience where I was invited to lead a training, and this had 3 different levels. It was internal quality assurance systems at policy, regulatory, and institutional level. So, that training brought together both the regulators, but also the colleagues from institutions of higher learning. We had internal auditors, budget officers. So I think it's better to have that expanded approach. Then the buying it becomes easy because then you have shared. Because like for us, the quality assurance officers, I always say we assume to own everything, yet actually we don't own. These things are shared, So I think to me, the idea is to get right to the stakeholders and their impact on the different roles or the core mission of the institution. And then the training comes in. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. We've been talking about in the internal quality assurance, but the internal quality assurance can't happen without the external quality assurance. So how do we try to bring together the two? How do we link the internal quality assurance and the external quality assurance? As for the example of Mauritius, when they carried out their training, they also invited members from the regulatory body. So how do we try to bring together the internal quality assurance and the external quality assurance to build the quality culture in our institutions and in the region?
Ok, merci. D'abord, j'aimerais réagir à ce que notre ami de la Côte d'Ivoire vient de dire. Ça risque de créer la confusion dans la tête des gens. Dire que parce que la ligne assurance qualité n'est pas mentionnée dans le budget et qu'on ne peut pas faire de l'assurance qualité. Non, nos institutions bénéficient toutes d'autonomie financière ou d'autonomie de gestion. Et elles ont le droit de mettre de l'argent, ou bien elles ont même le devoir de mettre de l'argent dans l'assurance qualité. Donc, dire qu'il faut attendre que ceux qui donnent de l'argent instruisent ou disent où est-ce qu'on doit mettre de l'argent, non, non et non. Et nous, quand nous avons été formés, même les SIAC, il y avait ce problème. Qui va financer? On a dit l'AMAC, l'Agence nationale, n'a rien à voir avec le financement d'une SIAC, parce que l'AMAC, l'Agence nationale, a ses propres problèmes. Nous avons comme mission d'accompagner les SIAC, c'est vrai, mais nous ne pouvons pas venir financer les SIAC. La culture qualité, de l'assurance qualité interne, c'est du ressort de l'institution d'abord. Voilà. Donc, la qualité, c'est le problème de l'institution en question. Donc, l'institution doit trouver les moyens pour faire de la qualité. C'est ce que je voulais ajouter. Et par rapport au lien entre assurance qualité interne et externe, je ne sais pas si j'ai bien compris votre question, Marie, et on l'a dit ce matin. L'assurance qualité interne, elle ne sert presque à rien s'il n'y a pas des yeux externes qui viennent voir ce que vous faites. Si vous faites de l'autosatisfaction, vous regardez dans le miroir, vous dites que vous êtes beau et quelqu'un d'autre ne vient pas voir, c'est pour vous dire, ouais, ça va, vous avez des points forts, vous avez des points de vigilance, c'est presque pas gagné. Mais aussi, il n'y a pas d'assurance qualité externe sans assurance qualité interne. Pour que l'assurance qualité externe puisse exister, il faut qu'elle vienne voir à l'interne au niveau d'une institution. Donc, les deux dimensions sont intimement liées. L'assurance qualité interne ne suffit pas sans l'assurance qualité externe et il n'y a même pas d'assurance qualité externe sans l'assurance qualité interne. C'est ce que je voulais ajouter. Merci.
Merci. We are almost running out of time. We would like to tackle the last I didn't see her. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, now we are going to give the floor to those who didn't talk. Please, let's start with that. Yes, Sherry, please.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, so I wanted to take a little bit from Mr. Devarajan from Mauritius, where he said that we need to have a local agency with the framework. So for us, actually, for us to develop our internal quality assurance, we use the framework that we have from our local regulator. And this enabled us as well to carry out the self-assessment, because if you use their framework, then you will see what they are coming to assess in your institution, and it's easier for you to set up policies, procedures that are missing. So I would say the two are intertwined, but if you start with what your local regulator have for external QA, you bring it into your institution, then you work from there for you to develop and your internal, and this will lead you to accreditation. Maybe just quickly to share my experience. When I started, I set up the QA section. So we used the framework, got accredited, but now 3 years later, this is where the internal quality assurance is very important. How do we ensure that we are still at that level? This is where the internal quality audits come in. And this is where sometimes you will feel the challenges, whereby some sectors, in my case, it's mostly academic, who feel that we've been accredited, don't worry, we will get accredited again. So there is a tend to some sort of slacking that goes along the way. So the internal audits is very important to ensure that we are still delivering on that level that we should. Thank you.
Let me take the last question from Bonnie. Then we tackle the last case of Kenya related to ODL.
Professeur Bonny Jean-Sylvain, Côte d'Ivoire, donc directeur général de la qualité et des évaluations au niveau du ministère. Alors, je voudrais faire une petite contribution également en réagissant un peu sur tout ce qui a été dit, notamment, je pense qu'il y a une petite incompréhension quand on a parlé de financement. Il ne s'agit pas de financement de l'assurance qualité interne ou bien externe. On a parlé de top management. Là, je reviens sur le top management. Ça veut dire que dans les attributions du sommet, donc des dirigeants, il faut absolument introduire cette obligation et qui fait que le responsable est obligé de rendre compte et d'être évalué sur ses résultats. Et alors, il va naturellement faire de l'assurance qualité. Donc, ça, c'est important parce qu'un projet assurance qualité, c'est d'abord le sommet. C'est d'abord le sommet et après, ça descend vers tout le bas. Et donc, c'est de ça qu'il s'agit. Et justement, je profite pour réagir un peu sur l'assurance qualité interne et externe. J'adhère complètement avec ce qui a été dit ce matin par Lamine Gay sur une forte volonté politique. D'abord, une forte volonté politique. Et après, il y a des textes. Et sans les textes, on ne peut pas avancer. Donc, ces textes font obligation à toutes les parties, que ce soit au niveau assurance qualité interne ou assurance qualité externe, pour justement être évalués et s'approprier cette culture. Alors, je vais, sans être long, dire que, par exemple, nous sommes en train de faire une réforme en Côte d'Ivoire. Mais cette réforme, c'est d'abord, si on crée l'agence, on ne pourra pas avancer si jamais au niveau des universités, il n'y a pas de réforme. Donc, c'est une réforme globale et on a parlé de système intégré. Tout ça, ça va ensemble pour permettre à un système donc d'avancer. Et je pense que c'est tous les acteurs du système doivent être imprégnés de l'assurance qualité pour évoluer. Et justement, je profite pour faire un petit plaidoyer au niveau du CAMES, au niveau de la UF, au niveau qui nous accompagne déjà, le RAPANAC, etc. Parce que si ce plaidoyer n'est pas fort, tout le monde, on a plusieurs vitesses. Il faut que tout le monde aille ensemble et c'est ces plaidoyers-là qui permettront, on a vu une disparité au niveau des pays, que ce soit au Mali, des universités, au niveau des pays, etc. Il y a une disparité. Et donc, c'est ce plaidoyer-là qui va permettre justement à ce bloc-là de se former et d'aller ensemble pour qu'on puisse justement parler le même langage dans tous les pays et dans toutes les universités, dans toutes les grandes écoles. Donc voilà, juste une petite contribution.
Merci beaucoup pour votre contribution. Nous allons passer au cas du Kenya. Dr. Beatrice talked about the ODL. As you know, the pandemic transformed the higher learning education. So when COVID came in, the online distance learning became more present. Unfortunately, institutions were not really prepared. So the quality assurance side was not really following what was happening. So she mentioned the issues, for example, lecturers were facing. They were requested to teach online, but they were not trained on how to prepare the online teaching or to prepare the online programs. So if you look at the experience in your country or in the region, so what is needed? Because as we see, this ODL is here to stay. It's not something now we are going to put aside and just remain with the face-to-face teaching or learning. Whether COVID is there or not, we still have to have this online teaching, online learning ongoing. So what is needed? What are the training needed? What else is needed to make sure this ODL is going on well when it comes to teaching and learning.
Hello. Okay, thank you very much. I think what I noted even during the pandemic is a lot of webinars were done on remote teaching, emergency teaching. But one thing which was really outstanding to me each time I attended the webinar was the training on quality assurance of ODL, the training on working on digitalized workspaces. And this is one major issue which should be tackled in a broad sense. Because even now, I think there are some institutions which have been taken to court by students that we were accredited to graduate and to be taught in this mode and not this one. So we will not write exams, we will not do this. So it's something which should be central also, if possible, to HAQAA2. How do we ensure a quality in ICT-driven teaching and learning? We look at the writing of the modules themselves. These are very, very different from the way we would write face-to-face materials. They should be interactive, but also we start from the end going backwards. Do people know how to do it? How many know how to do it? So a lot need capacity, particularly in that area. If we have some people who are still working remotely, if we have some practical oriented disciplines, which we can partly teach online, how will we make sure of the quality assurance? The things are broad and are many, but basically each one requires its own important training. Just to add, it means that in our strategic plans, because we now know we have blended learning, we need to include the component of quality assurance in each and every aspect that is in our strategic plan, so that people don't say we are doing double job. They would see in each part, this is the quality component and it should be embedded in this way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Violet. I had seen a hand from Dr. Sylvia Tuikong.
So good afternoon, or is it evening? This is Dr. Sylvia Tuikong, Daystar University, Nairobi, Kenya. Glad to be part of this forum, very educative. I would just want to talk about the experiences that we have had on ODL. We were lucky that we already had an LMS system, but we hardly had used it over years. So when COVID season came, it was a struggle to have faculty and students move on because of various challenges such as internet, such as even access to computers, labs, and many other issues. But what we did, assisted by our regulator, is to develop policies that have helped us to move forward. So we had learning happening, but the areas that we really need to, I believe not just our institution, but all others, is to have policies that will help us develop fully online curriculums, because they are different, as someone has mentioned. We need to look into the area of assessments and examination because of integrity issues. We need to think about how to deal with science-based curriculums. How do we deal with lab sessions? We also need to think about faculty training and even how to use, because as much as we are saying we had the LMS, but generally there were faculty who were not able to move forward. So there are many things that need to be done. And I think top on the agenda is looking at the integrity of examinations. What are the softwares that we need? What are the things that we need to support in the faculty, the students, because it should be all round, really. It is not just faculty only. So there is the issue of ICT, there is the issue of the students, faculty, there is the issue of curriculum. So all round generally. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tuikong. We are running out of time. I know that so many people would like to give their inputs. What I would suggest is if there are more inputs to give, you can send them either to me or to Appear. They will be compiled and these will be taken care of, be taken to consideration as you are focusing more on the training in the internal quality assurance and external quality assurance. So we've come to the end of our session. I thank you. I thank the panelists for their contribution, but also thank you for your active participation. Thank you. We are remaining in the last session. I would like to call Professor Olusola to come over. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much. This is the last session for today, and it's going to be a very brief one. But just to give us a background to this, in 2009, the African Union Commission was concerned about the issue of ranking in African universities. And it was believed then that universities in Africa should not be disturbed about issues of ranking, but we should be concerned about ensuring that we have a high quality process and programs in our various universities. And the African Union developed a tool for ensuring internal quality assurance mechanism. They call it African Quality Rating Mechanism. This session is devoted to that mechanism. Over the years, it has developed to also take charge of ODL and to also take charge of the need for digitalization of some of our processes. It's my pleasure today to chair this session and to invite Dr. Makuku to come up at this time and make a presentation on the African Quality Rating Mechanism. Dr. Makuku.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This one is a very important session, and I'm really highly passionate about it because as we are going to go through it, you will realize that it takes care of some of the issues that we are concerned about. And we have used it with excellent results. It may take longer than necessary because there are some key issues which I really need to express. So the objectives, next slide. The objectives of this session is to educate and make African higher education institutions aware of the existence and importance of the HAQAA2. How many are hearing the word HAQAA2 for the first time? let's have some hands up if you are hearing it for the first time. Okay, it's because we have dealt with it, and some people have also been involved in it. But we want to talk more about it because some of the institutions were not exposed to the process. We also want to make known the benefits and to advocate for and encourage African higher education institutions to start making serious use of the HAQAA2 institutional evaluation. But I want to stress also that we have talked since yesterday, today, and until Friday about quality and quality assurance. But I want to say that this quality starts with you. Sometimes we have quality issues. We know them, we know what to do, but we push it to other people and we say someone is going to solve it, but it's you. Next slide. Right. For everything that we are going to talk about, I just want us to have in mind, let's move, we are behind, that everything to do with quality assurance, just like what has been said by earlier speakers, is it has to do with planning. But then you can't plan of something that you don't know. Next slide. We are talking about also what are the processes which are required and how do we go about them. We do our research at the Center of Quality Assurance, and also this HAQAA2 on its own is some research of some sort, because we will always collect data on how the institutions are faring and how you are faring as an institution. And from there, you will find out that already you are seeing some of the gaps which require you to plug them. Next, let's go to the slide on what is the HAQAA2. So in greater detail, the HAQAA2 is a quality self-assessment and evaluation tool where you are rating yourself and the processes in your institution for continuous improvement and for building the quality culture. Just like what my SG said, it was commissioned by the African Union. So it's something very legal, with a legal basis and with continental support. And it also addresses issues that have been identified for a long time to bedevil the quality of higher and tertiary education in Africa. So the process was also thorough. It involved the ministers of higher education there, so including our countries, because those are the ministers of higher education in Africa, and quality assurance experts who were also assembled from different countries and also from other continents. So it's something which is a very authentic as well. I want to stress again that the African quality rating mechanism is not a ranking tool. It is not a ranking tool. You can't say just because we have gone through a quality rating mechanism process, so we can rank ourselves number one, number two. No, but rather it's a self-improvement tool which enables institutions to compete against themselves. So you can do it twice, but we'll see how you can do and carry out the process. You are competing against yourself. If you are using it now, for example, in December, you use it again in July 2023, you want to check, have you improved from last time? If you had challenges with research, publications, teaching and learning, designing of new programs, by July next year, will you still be having the same challenges or you have worked on them. We are going to cover the aspect which enables you to improve and to develop your institution out of undergoing this process. One thing I really like about the African quality rating mechanism is that it takes a holistic approach. Nothing is left behind. I want to give an example, for example, of the ISO certification so that you can understand where I'm coming from with the HAQAA2. So with the ISO certification, it can be ISO certification of laboratories. It can be ISO certification of documentation. And you are paying not less than 100,000 US dollars or something along those lines. I think those in Kenya is where I was shocked to find one institution had paid an amount more than 140,000 US dollars. And I said to myself, if that is the case, would they not even use the money to cover a wider area of what needs to be improved in terms of quality? Because we need our ICT, internet services, other infrastructure. So that's the beauty of the HAQAA2. When I say it covers, it takes a holistic approach just from the academic side to the academic support services. So we are also even looking at how it helps us in terms of works and estate maintenance, catering services, accommodation, exams, of course, is under the academic aspect. Even our compounds and cleanliness, everything is catered for by the HAQAA2. And it's really a thorough process which has got a questionnaire which should be completed. Just like I've said, it's one of the cheapest ways to improve and build a quality culture in your institution, because you can do it alone, but only that at some point you may need some validation. The criteria for ICT and internet services assessment and evaluation, for example, push the slide, please. Again, key messages. Yes, I just want to also convey the key messages from the Association of African Universities that the criteria for ICT and internet services assessment and evaluation has been expanded recently in line with the revelations of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the fourth industrial revolution. If you look at the original template on the questionnaire, you will realize that it didn't carry a lot in terms of looking into the ICT aspect of institutions. But right now we are concerned about infrastructure. When we are looking at how we need to have blended learning in preparation for any other pandemic or any other disaster which may prevent face-to-face teaching and learning. An institution has an option to do just self-assessments without external assessments or site visits, although the higher education institutions are encouraged to do that validation process. It helps institutions to know their strengths, areas of improvement, and also get some recommendations which can be used to come up with an action plan that can be used also to correct and narrow the gaps that will have been identified. It assists institutions to come up with the action plan, which is also practical, because everything else is based on research and what is prevailing on the ground. Why I'm insisting that at the center of quality assurance should be research is that you find some people in quality assurance in the institutions, deal with assumptions and perceptions. These are highly costly because sometimes you are investing in non-existing challenges, but perceived challenges. Next slide. The continuous use of the HAQAA2 institutional evaluation can upgrade an institution's position in all forms and levels at national and international rankings. It also helps you to prepare for the 5-year cycles of reaccreditation. Now, when you know the gaps in your institution and still you want to compete in the rankings, this is the tool. Next. Are you far much ahead of me or you are behind? Breaking a habit, that's why sometimes it's important to do it yourself. Next. That's what I normally prefer. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, please, it's a take home. If you have your phone cameras, you can take it. Breaking a bad habit is difficult, but not impossible. To break a habit, you must replace it with a good one and create physical boundaries that make returning to the old habits very unpleasant and the new ones easier to comply with. But our major challenges, for example, in higher and tertiary education is that we have a very narrow understanding of quality assurance in some instances because you see all the submissions that have been made, that we need more and more training as new people join. Now, if we have that, it means with a broad understanding of quality assurance, we will now know that there are also benefits to quality assurance. I hope I'm not stopping now. Okay. Okay, next slide. I will move again to the next one. This one is telling us that even the HAQAA2 institutional evaluation for self-improvement, at the center is internal quality assurance. But most of the time, people do internal quality assurance for the agencies, for external quality assurance, and that's a big mistake. But we should do our internal quality assurance for everyone because we need to satisfy professional bodies, national quality standards, regional and international standards. But sometimes we even borrow equipment to doing the external quality. But let's know that we are doing it for ourselves and not for the external agencies. Next slide, I'm pushing. Let's go to the HAQAA2 process. Let's go. The HAQAA2 process. To the organizers, I appeal for more time. Okay. Okay. The AAU seeks to promote the African higher education system that will promote better performance of higher education benchmarks. This will help the institutions to undertake the self-evaluations. Let's move. The HAQAA2 has got a criteria for self-evaluation, which is excellent, good, satisfactory, insufficient, poor. Let's move. I'm ahead and you are behind with the slides. So let's move. My time is going on. Let's move. Okay, I've said this already. So in terms of the HAQAA2 processes, that is it. Next slide. For the detailed part of the HAQAA2, you will find that I said it's a holistic process Because look at it, you are looking at institutions, general information, student profile, faculty profile, teaching and learning. Please move on. Next slide. We are also looking at linkages with industry, internationalization, ranking of the best 3 programs, which you can now use to also benchmark and allow other departments and faculties to follow. Governance and infrastructure, all those are key components which are covered. There are many more. Let me jump to the 2, go to the logo for Redeemers University. We had 1 university. It wouldn't be complete, excellent, surely without these few slides. I'm remaining with 4 only. Push. This is a Nigerian university where the Association of African Universities did one of the HAQARMs. Please, next. What were their goals for calling us on board? They meant business to be a credible higher education institution in Nigeria. They wanted to help the university to plan for the future. They wanted to improve their overall rating among universities in Africa and in Nigeria. They wanted to attract regional students as part of their internationalization plan. This is very key and important. It means they were very intentional about why they wanted to undergo the HAQARM process. Next, so the leadership team was there throughout the process. They were all involved, and that's important. Other than being told, they were part of the process. I encourage all IQA and EQA to be part of the process, because both can take aspects from the HAQARM and add them into the tools for assessment or into the tools for preparation for accreditation. Next, we do 3 things: inspection of physical facilities, hostels, classrooms, health. Next slide. This was one such case where I was looking at lecture rooms. Next, we do interviews. Number 2, we do inspection of facilities. Take that down. We do interviews. We interview the leadership, the students, the teaching staff, the support staff, and everybody else. Can you see triangulation? Triangulation, nobody can lie. Next slide. Next one again after me. Okay, this was one of the meetings. Document analysis is the 3rd one. We look at the evidences that they submit to tell us that they've really done this thing. So that's the process of validation. And to me, I find it to make everything solid. Let's go to the experience. The next slide. Very important.
2 minutes to go.
Yes. It was thorough. It was explicit. It was expository. An experience that brought about positive changes in Redeemers University. It's in their own words. What else did it do? It improved their internal quality assurance, development of policy documents, inspired them, prepared them in rankings. Let's see what happened. They became number 1 private university in Nigeria and number 14 university in Africa. I don't know. I'll look for that one again. Right.
Okay.
Then
1 minute to go.
Last one, Prof. Let's go. This presentation here. That's why I want workshops. The next one. SG, I need to finish this one.
Probably I could help to round up.
Slides for me. Okay, so this was the.
She has a lot of stories to tell, but because of her time, she will be by my side to attend to any question that you may have. So, Dr. Makuku, you are welcome to the stage. To note that the message is passing across is that this is a self-rating mechanism. What you do for each of the items, you have 5 points to rate yourself internally. You are not doing it for anybody. Do it at a time. In 3 or 4 months' time, repeat it to see whether you are improving or not and take necessary action. And it is not just covering one aspect of university activities, but everyone. But to let you know that in HAQAA2, we've been able to make this instrument available online. Any university can access it online. And another thing we are doing is that we are making it available as a book with a user's manual, which we believe that you do not need to do internal quality assurance activities because you want to satisfy the external agent. Do it to assure your stakeholders of the quality of the services that you are rendering. Dr. Makuku, we want to thank you for your presentation. I know you have so many things to say, but you'll be invited to come here. Should there be any question on the AQRM, please go to the AAU website. You will find African Quality Rating Mechanism. You can access the tool, and if you have any question, you will be free to get to AAU.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We can explain more if you want. Please come.
Thank you very much. So do we have questions? Yes. So please come up here because there are some questions for you. That's from Kenya, IUCA. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Ben Ruhinda from Inter-University Council for East Africa. I'm so glad to see this presentation and very happy to be present here. My question or suggestion is about the improving the tool on the side of the infrastructure. The description there is ranking from 1 to 4 and sufficient or poor or excellent, but infrastructure is a metric thing which should use ratios. So my humble request is that if we can, in the next version, if we can think of using the square meters where we are talking about sufficient, and we use the ratio of staff to student ratios and the ratio for student per space, it will give us better accurate metric instead of ranking with the number and compute the total average divided by actually doing the average. The second one.
Just to comment on that, is well noted, but also know that whether sufficient, insufficient, just adequate will also be numbered so that we can give it a number to count. Thank you.
Thank you. The second one is about ICT infrastructure. And the common used word in the current century, e-learning. I think we need to revise the same tool and consider e-learning as a mode of delivery, but not a process. Because like the point where we ask who is funding the e-learning program, sometimes it's more ambiguous, because if the e-learning is a mode of delivery, the funding will be distributed. Same as the question where we ask how many programs or how are you offering e-learning, it could be better to unpack it and we go in detail of seeing how e-learning is offered or how e-learning is used as an enabler in the institution. I submit.
My submission to that, if you do not mind, please, can you send to me your recommendation, and I assure you we incorporate it into the instrument. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Is that on? Yeah. Douglas Blackstock from ENCA. Violet, thank you very much. That was really interesting. I wasn't familiar with the tool, and anything that helps institutions take responsibility for their own self-improvement, I think is really important. You can, from the accent I mentioned earlier, in Scotland for 20 years been focused on quality enhancement rather than compliance. So I really like that. But I've been my first involvement in quality assurance was in 1987. And every vice-chancellor I've ever met and every university I know complains about the rankings, and that the rankings are methodologically unsound. They look at the wrong things. They measure things that are easy to measure. And yet you said a lot of the tool was about improving the rankings. Now, I'll temper what I said. Every vice-chancellor and every university displays where they are in the rankings on their website. So how do you square the circle of self-improvement for the benefit of the institution and positioning in the rankings? Because it seems that despite higher education being uneasy about them, everybody wants to be higher up them for their own marketing purposes.
Thank you.